Hello, everybody. Welcome to a very special 50th episode of the Brief Nerdy podcast. My name is Ryan. I'll be one of three hosts today. Joining me, as always, is my good friend Trent.
Hello. Happy 50th.
Happy 50th. I'm not 50 years old, but 50 podcast. It's the first thing that came to mind. And then, of course, once again, is our good friend and co-host TJ.
Don't eat me this week.
What he said.
Don't do it.
Oh, God.
I don't know what's going on, but okay.
I don't know what that was, but I liked it.
We have a very special podcast for you this week. We're going to talk about Star Wars Battlefront, the good, the bad, the ugly, Cuphead, and just difficulty in games in general. And then we're going to top things off with a Justice League Spoilercast. So you can listen up to that point if you haven't watched Justice League. But we'll go from there. But first, a round robin. This week's round robin. Nerd-related thing you are thankful for in 2017. We are, of course, approaching the American Thanksgiving holiday, and so we're going to talk about things that we're thankful for that are nerd-related in 2017. So no wives, girlfriends, boyfriends, children, family, all that typical mushy stuff that people say that they're thankful for. We're talking nerd stuff this time. So let's get started with that. Who would like to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
So, in light of all the awful Hollywood drama and issues that are going on, one thing I am thankful for on the other side of Hollywood is just movies in general and how we've gotten more options to see them this year. So Movie Pass, like we've talked about many times on the show before, I've only had it for a few months now, but I still absolutely love it. It's still, I just don't think that feeling of going to the movie theater and paying for your ticket without actually paying for it. I don't think that feeling will ever get old. It's just an awesome feeling. And then not only just Movie Pass, but Movies Unlimited, like I've talked about before. I still like, kind of tinkering around with that and messing with that. A lot of the companies where you can stream movies, they're giving you better streaming options. Vudu just added for Xbox One S and some of the TVs that have it built in. Some of the really high quality 4K streaming. So I tried it out on my Xbox and it looks awesome. It loads really quick. The streaming, you honestly can't even tell the difference between that and Blu-ray. It's that good. And just being interested in digital movies now and, having that as another option instead of going with all physical media. I never thought I would want to get away from physical movies, but I'm really starting to go in that direction. So
Yes.
just the movie options in general for this year. I'm very thankful.
That's
And
got
it's
to
saving me a lot of
that's got to convert you to digital games now.
Oh yeah, I don't know about that.
I'll go and go next. But very good one, TJ. Mine's going to be no surprise, but I'm most thankful for Mario Odyssey. Like I told you, just with not a depressing year because there was obviously a lot of good games, but a lot of games I was looking forward to most ended up being kind of disappointing. And so the fact that not only did Mario Odyssey deliver, but it exceeded my already high expectations I had for it, and just delivered, one of the best game experiences I've had in the several years at this point. So won't go on too much about it because I didn't on a previous podcast, but yeah, very thankful for Mario Odyssey this year.
Wow, I knew you really liked it. I didn't know you liked it that much.
No, it really hit just a special place in my heart, so to speak. Just again, with all of the loot box stuff going on, or microtransactions, or just disappointments for me. Unfortunately, Zelda, I would classify as a disappointment, not a bad game at all, but it's still a disappointment. Mass Effect Andromeda, again, not a bad game, but a disappointment. And I could probably list a few more, but Mario Odyssey just saved the year. I was thinking that before that I was going to have to settle with my Game of the Year choice as a pretty good game, but nothing amazing like previous Game of the Years I've had. But no, Mario came in and cleaned house for me.
Nice.
So we already have Ryan's Game of the Year.
Yep, it's settled. It's not, sorry, no contenders. It's. I mean, I'll have a top 5 list, which will probably be more interesting than that. But Mario is already the winner. So, spoiler alert.
For our podcast in 2 or 3 weeks.
Yep.
Awesome. So I guess it's my turn then.
Yep.
TJ took one of mine because I was gonna mention movies. It's Movies Anywhere, right? Is that what it's called?
Movies. Yes, Movies Anywhere.
Yeah. I'm not a huge movie watcher at home anymore, but I love the idea of that kind of streaming service existing, and I use it here and there. I wish that something like that will soon, in the near future, happen for video games and TV streaming. I think that would be great. But so I will switch mine to for in both Justice League and her own movie. I am grateful for Wonder Woman.
It's true.
I think that she is like the best part of the DCEU by far, the best part of Justice League. I love that she has forever shattered the myth that female superhero movies can't do well if they're done right. And I think that's one of the best parts of 2017. So
Very good choice.
I know it's been a while since our last good female superhero movie, Catwoman. Halle Berry.
The basketball scene.
Oh,
True art in cinema.
oh, my heart. It hurts.
All right, well, let's go ahead and switch gears on to our what we playing, what we watching section. Trent, what you playing?
So not a whole lot of differences. I started playing Sims 4 Cats and Dogs this week. So my vampire dude has a cat now, and it's wonderful. Just a little bit of that. Tried a Nightfall strike with Ryan and Eric on Destiny 2, which was hilariously bad.
Hulk smash! We got smashed. We got absolutely destroyed.
We got destroyed. And then I've almost finished the basic endgame, like the first release endgame content for Legion on WoW. And now I just have 2 other patches to go. So that's what I've been playing.
Cool. I've been playing Destiny 2 as well, playing a little bit more. I kind of just do the weeklies and PvP kind of on my own when other people are playing other stuff, but I'm still really enjoying it. Just trying to gear up and prepare to actually complete a Nightfall and then eventually prepare myself for the raid upcoming, or it's already here, but it's upcoming for us, I guess. But the first expansion comes out next month, so I'm trying to catch up, so to speak. And the PC release was already a bit behind, but I'm not playing the game as much as other people are, so, or none of us are, neither Trent or Eric or myself. So, yeah, just kind of playing those, and Battlefront 2 as well, but we'll get to that in our main Battlefront discussion coming up.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention Battlefront 2. I've been playing that too.
Yeah. How about you, TJ?
Yeah, so this week, Lego Marvel Superheroes 2 came out. I was highly anticipating it. Lego Marvel Superheroes, the first one, I think is still one of the best Lego games. I really thought Lego Marvel Superheroes 2 would take the title, but I'd be lying if I said I was not having a lot of problems with it.
I've heard that.
Yeah,
from many sources.
A lot of technical issues. Like, I decided to get it on Switch, just to help support the Switch, and just for the other options that are obvious, like portability and whatnot. Especially since that's a pretty mindless game, like the Lego games. So just like kicking back on the couch and playing in handheld mode, and collecting the gold bricks and whatnot. It's kind of made for it. But when I started playing, like almost immediately, I noticed some of the technical issues, like the frame rate and just even like the controls. It feels very floaty and a little unresponsive, and I'm not really used to that in Lego games. So I did some research, and I'm like, man, maybe they just ported it to Switch. Like, maybe they just did a bad job with it. But I guess the other consoles have a lot of the exact same issues. I think the resolution, the frame rate's a little better on like PS4 and Xbox One, but overall, all the same issues that the Switch one has, those do too. So it's just the game itself.
That's kind of both a blessing and a curse, right? It's a blessing in that, it's not just a bad Switch port. And so, we don't want the Switch to get a bad rap for having bad ports.
Yeah.
But it's a curse in the fact that, it's unfortunate that the game has to run terribly.
Yeah, and I really shouldn't be this surprised because I watched a lot of the preview videos. Like, they went to countless like conventions and stuff, like Comic-Con, and they always showed new footage and like hands-on, and it always seemed like really stuttery and choppy. And I'm like, it's kind of weird that they would want to show this off, in this state. But I just assumed that they would fix it before, and they haven't. It's also one of the It really is, because I mean the character selection is just like off the charts, like crazy. There's well over 200 characters.
Wow.
And one thing I really like about this one is every character you unlock has their bio. So all these weird, like lesser known Marvel characters, now you can actually see like their origin story, and it even shows the first comic that they were ever in. So if you want to learn more about them, really easy way to do it. So there's a lot of really good things, and they were really trying to go for this huge scope, but it just, I don't know, it feels all over the place. And even the art design, I mean, you'd think that it would be easy to nail because it's Lego, but like some of the heroes look just like they do in the Marvel movies, where other heroes that might have had Marvel movies look like their comic counterparts. So they don't really blend together very well. And the voice acting, I know I mentioned that on last week's show that this was made during the voice actor strike, so they couldn't get a lot of the regular voice actors. There's some truly awful voice acting in this game. And it's not even necessarily that the acting's bad, but just some of the voices that they got for these characters, like Spider-Man in particular, just does not sound like a Peter Parker at all. And Star-Lord sounds really weird. I don't know. They missed the mark on so many levels. I'm still going to play it. I'm still going to try to 100% it, but I'm not wanting to play it for, like, my gameplay sessions with it are not nearly as long as they would be with, previous Lego games. So hopefully they patch it or something, but I don't know. We'll see.
It just seems weird to me that it's like, I mean, I feel like the Lego model has been set up so well. Like, how do you mess that up?
Exactly. And Trent, that's a really good question. I was wondering that myself, and I don't know if maybe they split into too many different teams, because like the Lego Ninjago movie game just came out in September. So that just came out right before this. That whole team was working on Lego Dimensions, for all these years. That Lego Worlds game came out this year on console. So I don't know if they're spreading themselves too thin. But you're right, though. This game almost feels like a step backwards, where like Lego The Force Awakens, that felt like a huge step forward. So I don't know. I don't get it. But we'll see. I hope my love for the Lego games is not starting to fade away, but this is not promising.
But you gotta wait for Lego Last Jedi, then everything will be better again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have they made any official announcements around that yet?
No, but you know what? I think they announced Lego Force Awakens like the month after Force Awakens came out.
Yeah,
and that was a huge surprise. Like no one even knew that they were working on that.
Well, are we even sure they were working on it very much beforehand? Because I mean, I imagine Disney has a very, very tight grip on that story, and so to give that story out to an entire development team externally, I wonder how close to the movie's launch they're like, okay, let's start making this, so to speak.
Yeah, no, that's true too. But I mean, Lego Force Awakens, that came out, I think, 6 months after Force Awakens did, so they had to have known. They had to have been working on that for at least a year or two.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know, but
makes you wonder how that process goes, because maybe like they start working on the character models, because they have that from the trailer, like, oh, let's do Finn's look, and they just kind of make the characters and then assign them all the base abilities, like this one can crawl in the spaces, this one can go in the dark, all the base Lego abilities, but they only start building like the environments and the cutscenes after the movie comes out or something.
Yeah.
Like something crazy like that, I'm sure.
And I would love to, like, one advantage that Lego Last Jedi would have is they could do all of Star Wars Rogue One too. They could do that. Yeah. So like that wasn't covered at all, because Lego Force Awakens had some levels from like Return of the Jedi and a few other games, but yeah, this could do both of those, so there'd be plenty of content.
I hope they do. I loved Force Awakens.
Yeah, it was good.
I almost wonder, like, how, like, could you do a Lego version of a movie that, like, is so? I mean, it's not like super dark, but it's pretty dark. Like,
well,
dies.
I mean, if you look at Lego Dimensions, though, like, they did a lot of stuff. I mean, the fact it still blows my mind that they did Beetlejuice. Like, I can't believe they actually made that world in Lego, and there's an official like Lego minifigure of Beetlejuice. I mean, that's a pretty dark movie. So yeah, I don't know. I think they could pull it off.
Yeah, just K2 just blows up, and then Like they're all horrified, but then his head is like bouncing around the ground and winking at him.
Exactly.
That's all they gotta do.
Well, I mean, they did Lego Indiana Jones. He's fighting Nazis the whole
That's
time.
true. People
So-
definitely die in that one, and pretty horrifically. So
Yeah, I can't remember how they did the face melting scene in that game. I'll have to look that up because I know they did it in like a comedic way.
yeah, I
Yeah,
remember playing it too, and I can't remember.
neither can I.
Must not have been that memorable.
I guess not. I remember I had
Yeah.
that Lego Indiana Jones Kung Fu Panda double pack.
Oh man,
Yeah.
And
But yeah, so
you
I-
bet I 100% or 100 gamer scored that Kung Fu Panda for the
Of
achievement.
course he did. But yeah, so that's mainly what I've been playing. But South Park Phone Destroyer, I keep finding myself going back to it. I mean, yeah, it's a mobile game, so it's easy to just pick up and play, for a few minutes. But I'm still like really enjoying it, and I get excited when I unlock a new character. Like I mentioned before, it's just fun to see the creative ways that they use like the South Park characters, and then pay homage to like a sci-fi movie or just like a fantasy movie, something. So. Yeah, I'm still really enjoying it. Still have not spent more than the 99 cents, so that's good.
nice.
Yeah, I still need to try it.
But I have noticed though, because when you play PvP, like you have a deck of cards. I think it's like 10 or 12 cards. Put them in your deck, and then when you play those cards, that character appears on the battlefield, and then they kind of fight like on their own. You have no control over them. And I noticed, like, I don't know if I got lucky or what, but I got the Big Gay Al card, and he's like a really rare card. And I noticed for a really long time playing PvP, no one else was using him, and he's really good.
Huh.
So that's when I noticed, like, wait a second. So now this like kind of like pay to win strategy. Now I kind of see this coming into play because he has an ability that no one else has in the game, and it's very very good. And then I've also come across characters like someone had what's the character Man Bear Pig? Is that
Yeah,
the
yeah,
proper
man, Bear
name?
Pig. Yeah,
People have used him, like a few people I played online used him, and he's like way OP, like a really good card, and I've never even seen it. So I mean, I haven't beat the single player yet. I'm pretty far, but I haven't beat it. So I don't know if maybe you get it for beating that, but I'm starting to see like the pay to win because there's some people you play online where you just can't win because of their cards.
Yeah,
So
that's unfortunate.
yeah,
that's
but no, overall it's still really fun though. I really like it.
that's pretty much always the case in the PvP for Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes too, which was unfortunate.
Oh really?
It's one reason I kind of stopped playing it. I hadn't spent any money on it, and I got to the point to where everyone was using. It was still very early game. Those things may have changed now, but there was a Jedi. I think it was Luminara. I think that you
No,
could
it was,
only buy.
Barris, I think.
Yeah, Barris offer. Yep, you're right. You can only buy her in a pack. At one point, you couldn't even buy her anymore. She could only buy her at one time, and she basically had a super OP healing ability. She could res people. She could heal people. And so it got to the point where everyone I faced in the PvP there just had her, and so I couldn't really progress much further without paying money. So it's kind of I'm kind of done. So I'm sure it's changed now, but
So
Well, one thing I'm not sure who developed the game, but one thing I really give them props for is there was one day. I think the game's only been out like a week and a half now, but there was one day where it wasn't even the full day. It was just like a small portion of the day where there were server issues. You could still play the main game, but you couldn't do like the PvP. And then that same day, you got an automatic prompt in the game that said, "Hey, sorry, our servers were down. Here's a free pack of cards."
that's cool.
And like they've consistently been doing events and stuff to earn like unique cards and everything, and none of which you have to pay for. So hopefully they're not just doing that because it just came out. But if they continue that, like it'll hold my interest. So
That's really cool.
yeah,
I love it when mobile games and stuff do that.
yeah.
As our resident Nintendo expert, I was curious. I saw a thing and a trailer on my Facebook scroll the other day for a game called Ginger Beyond the Crystal. Have you heard of this game?
You know what? I have not.
So I looked it up in the Switch store. It came out Friday, and it kind of looks like a Banjo Kazooie type game.
Really?
It looks kind of fun.
I also haven't heard of this.
It's called Ginger Beyond the Crystal.
Yeah, and it's $20. It's a one-player action platformer adventure, and it
Oh,
has
you know,
88 score on Metacritic from the users anyway, not the critics. But I think it looks kind of fun.
Oh, huh, yeah, I'll have to look into it. It looks like it's on other consoles and PC too.
Nice.
Yeah, no, I'll have to check that out. I think now that I'm seeing it, the picture, like the title looks familiar, that art, but I don't think I really looked into it though. I think I just saw it in
Oh,
the eShop.
it looks like it just came out on the Switch on Friday, but it came out in 2016 on other consoles.
Oh, yeah, I'll look into it. It looks cool.
Yeah, and I think it looks kind of fun.
Cool. Thanks for the heads up.
You're welcome.
TJ, what you watching?
Well, I've been watching stuff like here and there. A lot of the same stuff, I've talked about before. I can't remember if I've ever mentioned Brooklyn Nine-Nine on the show. Maybe I have a long time ago, but that is a show that I have been consistently watching since it first aired a couple years ago, and I still really like it. It's just such an easy show to watch, but without being like mindless humor. I really like a lot of the characters on the show, and I still find myself laughing out loud at it. It's just a really good show, just easy to watch, and I can't recommend it enough. So I just kind of wanted to point that out and recommend it to everyone.
Yeah, good call. I don't think you have mentioned it, but I've heard a lot of good things about it. It's been on my list to check out for a while now, but you
Yeah,
know how that goes.
when they announced it, it had a lot of things going against it. Like one fact mainly being the fact that it was like a cop comedy on Fox. So
Yeah.
it didn't make it seem very promising. But yeah, it's a really good show, and I think the awards it's won in the past, I think it deserves them.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I'll be honest, I was turned off. Like, I'm not a huge fan of the comedy of Andy Samberg, at least
Mhm.
his older stuff anyway. Like, I love his music videos. I think those are hilarious.
Mhm.
But his acting, like on SNL, always kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But I have seen a little bit that I thought was really funny, mainly from like the captain of the station.
Oh yeah, Captain Holt. Yeah, he's great.
So I'm gonna have to maybe give that one a try too.
Yeah, cool. I think you'll like it. I think they're all on Hulu too. So
Nice. So I'll go next.
Okay.
If that's cool. So Ryan and I finished last night our season 4 of Breaking Bad
oh boy.
for my watch through. So that was intense. Um, and then we actually watched the first episode of season 5, which was not quite as intense, but really creepy, in my opinion.
Yeah. Did you have? I mean, we're not gonna go into spoilers or anything. I know it's an older show, but still. But when you ended season 4, did you feel like, how is there another season left? Like, what are they gonna do with a whole nother season?
A little bit, yeah. I'm kind of wondering still. I mean, I'm sure that there's something they can do about it that'll be interesting, but it definitely felt like they could have ended it with 4. And I think
Yeah.
Ryan said that was on purpose. So
Yeah, at the time, until the show went on Netflix, which was while they were making season 4, the show had done fairly poorly in ratings, and so it hadn't been renewed for season 5 until after season 4. Because then Netflix caused season 4's ratings just skyrocket, and so they very quickly renewed it for season 5. But at the time of they were writing and filming season 4, they didn't know if they were even going to get a season 5. So
Okay. Huh.
it was funny. I told Ryan by the end of season 4, I was rooting for the quote unquote antagonist
Oh.
of the show. Very much against the main character.
pretty much.
So that was it. I never had a show do that to me before, and it was really really cool. So
Yeah. Well, I'm very happy to hear that you're enjoying it and sticking with it.
yeah, so we got what 15 episodes to go,
Yep.
and then
And forgive me if I've asked you this before, TJ, but in your opinion, season 5 is definitely the best.
It's so hard for me to say because I I watched that whole series like so close together that it all just feels like one giant episode to me.
Yeah, makes sense.
So yeah, I really can't even pick like a favorite season. I can say that it's phenomenal though. It's a amazing season. But yeah, I don't know if I could really fairly say which one I thought was the best.
Fair play. Fair play.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what else are you watching, Trent?
So pretty much just that in terms of new stuff. I wanted to reiterate how much I like or have been loving the Orville this episode again this week was phenomenal. It's probably the thing I look forward to the most each week now, especially that Star Trek's off again. So that's
It's amazing to me that there's only been one dud of an episode, just in my opinion. You even enjoyed that episode.
Yeah.
So
And I thought I was gonna hate it, but it wasn't as great as the other ones for sure. But yeah, just every episode has been surprisingly fun and funny and yet
classic Trek
moving and
feeling.
yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, I've also really enjoyed Orville. Not so much for Rebels this season. The mid-season finale was probably a small step up, but overall, this first half of the season has been my least favorite season of Rebels.
Oh wow!
So far,
Yeah, same.
Which is really disappointing because it's the final season and they're trying to wrap up the story, and I think they're just doing a terrible job at it.
I feel like nothing's happened.
No, like nothing has happened, and they're just like doing weird stuff, like trying to do weird mystical force stuff, and I'm just like, I don't care. Like, I don't know. I don't want to get too much into it due to spoilers, but like,
I don't know. I mean, maybe the second half will redeem it, but
hopefully,
with the way this season's gone, I think they should have just ended it last season.
Yeah, we'll see. It's like they have good cards, but they're not using them. Like Theron has not been utilized this season. Like he's kind of been there a couple moments, but like he was obviously the main antagonist in season 3, and he's, spoiler, not dead yet. But they just like he's kind of like just not a player really anymore at this point. And
well, maybe they're saving it all for the second half.
Maybe, but we'll see. Hopefully, the second half does a lot better because, again, like especially season 2 and season 3 of Rebels were such high quality. To see this one just not get near that level of quality is disappointing, to say the least. So, like it's like they have no guts, no balls, like to do anything drastic or major. I mean, like I mentioned it before, but like they had a moment where you, spoiler alert for the first episode, you think they kill off some side characters. They're not even, I wouldn't even call them main characters. I'd say they're definitely supporting characters. But then like at the end of that cliffhanger, like the second episode, oh nope, this entire army just got vaporized except our 2 main side characters. It's like, oh, okay, that's and the whole season's been like that so far. It's just them kind of spinning their wheels, nothing happening, and weird force mystical stuff that allows people to teleport from one side of a planet to the other, because. So, I don't know. Hopefully it gets better.
Same.
Just kind of an aside, this is completely off topic, but I wanted to tell this to you, TJ, when I mentioned that I finished Leftovers, but you weren't on that episode, and I haven't had an opportunity to tell you before. Mm-hmm. Many of you know that my cat's name is Kevin. No relation to the Leftovers TV show, Kevin. However,
Kevin Costner.
Because of the way Patty says the name Kevin in Leftovers, Maggie and I have kind of inadvertently started calling Kevin Kevin.
Kevin.
I know exactly what you're talking about. And it's one of those things I never even thought about it. But now that you say it, now I'm always going to think about it.
Right? So like we'll be like, oh, Kevin. All the time to our cat now. So thanks for that, TJ.
Well, I'm glad you got something out of the show.
So I thought I'd mention that. I thought you'd appreciate that. So
oh yeah, I do. That's great.
All right.
Oh man.
So that's it for what we've played, what we've been watching. Let's go into our main section of the podcast. Ground rules. We're going to be civil in this conversation. We're going to respect each other's opinion. As I angrily shout that at both of you.
We're going to get along, damn it.
But we're gonna discuss Battlefront 2, and as I said earlier, it's gonna be the good, the bad, and the ugly because there exists all 3 in this, and so let's not think it's only one topic. So, would anyone in particular like to go first?
Well, let me just say right off the bat, I'm not playing it, but this was one of my topic ideas just because, I mean, it's a big game. People were, anticipating it for a while now. It's Star Wars. We have a new Star Wars movie right around the corner. So I wanted to talk about it with you guys, though, even though I can't really contribute from, like actually playing it from that side, I wasn't trying to start like an argument or anything like that. It's just that whenever I hear people talking about it or any news online, it's always about like the microtransactions and the loot boxes and stuff, which, yeah, I mean, I'm sure you're going to mention that and say like how you feel about it, but I want to actually just hear about how the game itself is. I feel like everyone kind of glosses over that and then just talks about, like the drama and stuff with it. So that's why I really wanted to talk about this. I want to hear how you guys are just enjoying the game
Fair
as
play.
a game.
Trent, would you like to go first, or would you like me to?
You can go ahead.
Okay, well, I finished the campaign. I will remain spoiler-free besides my impressions. And I've dived a tiny bit into the multiplayer. As for the campaign, I generally overall really liked it. I know I've kind of looked along online to see general discussions of the campaign. I know I'm semi in the minority for that because a lot of people have a lot of problems with the campaign, and it's not without its problems, but I overall really enjoyed it. I was talking to Trent yesterday. What I liked best about that campaign is something that nothing in the Star Wars extended universe, at least the new canon extended universe, has done before, is richly reference other expanded universe stories, so to speak. There are probably 30 to 40 or more small and large references to not the movies, but the books and the comic books, and other expanded universe items. And for someone who has dedicated an obscenely amount of time keeping up with absolutely everything in the new Star Wars canon EU, it was a treat to me to see all those things interconnected to each other. Because we talked about the Marvel TV shows and the Marvel movies, how the TV shows are like, oh, yep, here we are cleaning up after Thor's mess, and then the movies are just like don't acknowledge anything that the TV shows exist. And that's kind of how Star Wars is as well. The books and the comics, obviously reference movies and kind of even slightly reference each other, but this has been the first time to where the new Star Wars universe felt as a cohesive unit, because obviously you're on Endor and the Death Star explodes, and then obviously there's other points to where you're fighting in a battle that I had read about in a book previously that hasn't been touched on anywhere else. And so I really, really, really love that aspect of it. The action is great. The set pieces are fun. The visuals are fantastic. Just this engine that EA has built, the Frostbite engine, can just do something and just make this universe look the best it's ever looked. In a variety of ways, obviously computer-generated ways, but so that's great. My only problems I have with it, again, spoiler-free, is that I felt that the campaign took a very, 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 very predictable and safe path with its story. It didn't really do anything new or unique to justify its existence. And then also, again, I hope you don't kill me, Trent, but this is kind of minor spoilers for the ending, but not really. It doesn't really end at all. It just kind of literally kind of stops where you're like, oh, okay, and then the credits start rolling, and you're like, okay, I guess it's over, I guess. And that's with the stipulation that EA plans to release new story missions, over the next couple months, and people are wondering if like they're Last Jedi related or the missions may spoil Last Jedi content. But either way, that kind of finished it, and I was like, oh, okay, that's it. So we'll see once those missions come out and they say, okay, now the story is over. Well, how we feel, with this arc that they've established, but we'll see from there. So
it didn't even give you like the story will continue in blah blah blah.
Nope.
That's bizarre.
Yeah, so I only knew that from online discussions that yep, December they're releasing a new mission, a new single player mission. So and there's plans to release more later, but
I imagine it's probably going to be Force Awakens related, just based on the fact that we know we're getting Force Awakens maps in the PvP stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know why they would wait to do that, unless, like you said, it spoils something in Last Jedi.
I could comment further on that theory alone, but I don't want to spoil anything story-wise for you. But
you play as Rey's dad.
It's possible.
And that's his name, Rey's dad.
Rey's dad.
So that's how I feel about the overall single player. Mostly positive. My
question for you is, how did you feel about Han Solo's beard?
Well, I knew he had a beard because he had a beard in the second Aftermath trilogy novel, and that moment you see Han is in between the first and second Aftermath novel. So
How did they reveal that in that book? They say, and here comes Han Solo. Now he has a beard.
I think it was just Leia like saw him and like made fun of him for it because she hadn't seen him in like a month or two, and so he shows up and he has a beard and she kind of makes fun of him for it. I believe that's how it happened.
I'm just imagining like you reading that book and visualizing it in your head, and it's like, oh, Han Solo walks up, and then Leia talks to him, and you see him as Han Solo, and then she's like, oh, you're so scruffy, and then like a beard just appears on his face.
Pretty much. It's like he's always wearing those same blue pants with the yellow stripes on it. He doesn't have any other pants.
Nope. Well, good. I'm glad to hear some positives about the campaign.
Trent, what do you have to say about the campaign so far?
I'm liking it. So I don't know about how far I am percentage-wise through it. I played 2 full nights. I'm stuck on one level that I find particularly difficult. Apparently, it was no challenge for Ryan. 'Cause he sits down one night and just beats it.
Ooh.
I finished the campaign in about 4.5 hours, personally. So, and I played on normal.
Yeah,
That was quick.
apparently I'm not as good at shooters or sneaky-ish games. I like the. I was worried that they weren't going to be able to, like, translate the like special ops feel to it, but I feel like they did that pretty well. You definitely feel like a special ops person, and like people are shouting things about how terrified they are of you and things like that. So that feels pretty cool. I've found, and I've talked to you about this already, but I feel like having read the novel that comes before this was a huge benefit to me in understanding the characters so much better. And I feel like there are many decisions that I've seen to this point already where if I hadn't read the book, I would have been like, what? Why? What's why?
Yeah. The characters seemingly make big decisions that mean nothing because there's been no development for it.
Right. But if you read the book, it makes total sense. And for the first time that I can think of, there's actually a line in the game that is a direct quote from the book where she's like, someone once told me, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, that was in the book. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I like the connectedness of it. I don't know if, I'm happy that I've read the book and played the game, but I feel bad for anyone who didn't read the book and they're playing through the campaign and be like, this is stupid. Like, why would they make that choice? Like, so, I don't know.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's been really positive. I find the romp through the different planets. I know a lot of people complain about it. It's like, oh, they're just coming up with reasons to go to these places. Like, well, yeah, I mean, that's the point of this game. So that doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah, I think that like kind of gets a pass because I mean, if it's only going to add variety to the gameplay and stuff, then okay, yeah.
It's like, oh, this mission only, this mission only exists so you can go to Naboo. And it's like, well, I mean, would you rather not go to Naboo? Because it's a pretty cool level design. Like, it looks really pretty.
Is there any reason to replay the story levels? Like, are there hidden things that you find in them, or is it pretty straightforward?
There's collectibles, but it's literally just walk up to it, hit a button, and it's like you found a collectible, and it's just a box. So
what do they do? All right.
It gives you extra credits or crafting parts to use in the multiplayer.
Oh, okay.
A tiny amount, though.
Yeah. So it's definitely not mandatory. I'm probably not going to play through it again once I finished it.
Yeah, I'll probably hop back in for the new missions when they come out, but yeah, it's not something I see myself playing through again.
So does it feel like an actual single-player campaign, or does it feel like something they kind of just scraped together just to give the fans what they were asking for?
I would actually say a halfway in between. I mean, the gameplay feel, it can't not feel like that Battlefront multiplayer, so to speak, just the way it feels. There's obviously dialogue going on in the background and cutscenes to help out with it, but especially in the big battlefields you're playing on, it just feels like I'm playing against bots in the multiplayer. Trying to get from point A to point B, capture this objective point, or kill all X-wings, flying around the Star Destroyer kind of thing. So, but it's definitely not just like multiplayer with bots. It's somewhere in between. I wouldn't say it's as well crafted as an average, single player campaign shooter, but it's not quite there either.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely feels like a Battlefront campaign. I don't know if that makes sense, but I really enjoyed what I've played so far. There's been a couple of moments where like seeing certain characters, or I literally had like fanboy moments. And there's some really cool story teases that might have some interesting connections to the larger universe that I'm curious to see what happens with. So I've been very happy with it overall so far.
Well, good.
So should we talk about the ugly now?
Sure.
Well, not necessarily the ugly, but like how much multiplayer have you guys played? I guess we could start there.
I actually haven't played any yet.
Okay. I've played about 4 or 5 matches.
What kind?
The Welcome to Battlefront ones, whatever that was.
Nice.
The gameplay is fine. I mean, if you enjoyed 2015 Battlefront, you'll enjoy this. I like to play as the officer, and most people don't, so that makes me happy. Because he's more of a support character. He gives buffs and places turrets, and he uses a pistol, which is kind of my preferred gun, anyways.
Nice.
So I enjoy that. Again, the planets look great. It's wonderful to hop into all these different locales and see it, walk around it and stuff like that. But that being said, it's aside from the microtransactions, probably the absolute biggest complaint about the game has been the progression system, and I kind of feel the same way. I feel that you don't really get enough credits per match to warrant the progression system as it currently is. Because again, it's going to take probably about 10 hours now versus the in air quotes 40 hours it took to unlock Darth Vader for me to unlock the other characters I want, or to unlock Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker and things like that. And if I'm spending those credits to unlock those, I'm not spending any on any crates to get crates. And then even when I do open the crates, it doesn't get me what I want. Like, for example, I haven't unlocked anything for the officer, but I've unlocked a few things for the heavy. And so it's like, well, okay, do I play the heavy now since I have some good cards on him, or do I play as the officer because that's what I want to play as? But then, like, if I play as the officer a lot, I don't level up the officer. The only way to level up the characters are to get cards for the characters. Like, you attach a card and it levels up the officer to like a level 4, and then when you hit level 10 on the officer, then you could attach more cards. And so you have to attach good cards onto the officer to unlock more card slots on the officer. So on and so forth. And so
are there any upgrades that you have full control over? Like, as you're playing and like spending the credits, can you buy specific things, or is it always like random stuff?
Only the unlockable hero characters like Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader.
Wow, huh. So like your officer, that's basically what you're saying is you can't just sit there and say, I'm just going to fully max out this officer, because that's what I like to play as.
Yes. You can use crafting parts to upgrade cards you have attached to someone to hopefully try to get it to a higher level. But that's it. So I guess there is that way. But it's not like I just play the officer and level him up and get good stuff for him. I have to hope for it in the loot crates.
Huh.
And I think
that's kind of weird.
If I remember correctly, the lowest loot crate is 7,000 credits, where again you get 200 or 300 a match.
The lowest loot crate's 7,000?
I believe so. Might have opened the game to check.
Wow. Huh.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm not a big fan of the randomness of it. I think that's kind of stupid. I think like if you have one class of like, I don't know, rare to semi-rare stuff that isn't as game like changing, that you could hide behind like random stuff. Like almost everything being behind loot boxes and being random makes me pretty mad also, I'll be honest. because like you said, like what's the point of putting in classes if you don't get to level the one that you want to play?
Yeah. Well, like, so, like, do either of you know, like, the crates, like that cheapest crate? When you buy that, what's in that crate? Like, how many different things can you get?
You get a chance to get 4 or 5 things. It's random whether you get 4 or 5 things. In it, you could get a pack of credits. A pack of like 200 or 300 credits. I'm not joking. You spend 7,000, you could get a pack of 200 or 300 credits in one of those slots. You could get a small pack of crafting parts, again, to upgrade your cards. You could get emotes for your character. You could get other cosmetic things, as well as cards to then, upgrade, your reload speed, this ability's cooldown, or something to that effect.
Huh. See, I feel like an easy fix for that, or something to just at least make it, reasonable, is, okay, in this case, you like playing as the officer. It's like, I wish that when you were ready to buy a crate, you could buy a crate and like select officer, and then you'll get at least one card for the officer. Even if you don't have control over what that is, just something that you don't have for the officer. And then the other stuff could be random. Maybe you'll get more stuff for the officer, but even if you don't, you still get at least one thing for the character you like to play as. I don't think that's unreasonable. I don't think that would really negatively affect like the sales of, the loot crates and stuff like that. So I feel like that would be a good way to at least start meeting in the middle when it comes to business versus players.
Yeah, definitely. And a big thing is that it's already happened to me, and I've opened literally like 5 boxes so far. You could get duplicates. I've gotten like 2 duplicates, and when you get a duplicate, you just get 200 credits.
Oh.
Well, that is actually pretty standard fare for like loot box stuff. Like Overwatch does the same thing. And it just, what it does is that it makes you, like, it's your better source of credits, really, is what it is.
And yeah, I could say that being true. I just wish the amount was a little bit more, because again, you spend 7,000 credits and you get 200 back.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Well, one comparison to make, like with South Park Phone Destroyer, I mean, that's obviously a free-to-play game. I mean, the game's free and it's full of like loot crates and stuff, but every time you win a match, regardless of whether it's online or single player, they give you 10 lockers, like 10 lockers at the school, and you can open any 3 that you want. And the cool thing is, on the side, it shows 3 cards that are somewhere in those lockers. So you can pick 3, like it's happened to me actually more times than you would think, where I just pick 3 and I get all 3 of the cards that they show. And they're usually like better than what the other lockers contain. But then other times, I open 3 and maybe I got one of those 3. But then that's my decision to go, oh, okay, well, I got one of those, but man, there is a card in here that I really want. I'm going to risk it. I'm going to pay like the in-game cash and open another locker. But at least there's some incentive, because then there's other times where I'm like, okay, I didn't get any of those cards, but I really don't want any of them. So, okay, let's move on. So I even feel like something like that would make it even better. Just if you knew like what potentially you were going to get.
Yeah, no, I agree. I definitely think there's a lot that EA needs to fix about the system, for sure. I think that they've shown signs that they are willing to make changes if the outrage is big enough. I wish they were a little bit more responsive without needing like the most downvoted Reddit post in history, but at least they have done something, and I hope that they're going to keep their promise and keep making changes for the better.
Mm-hmm.
I think they will. Because have any of you guys read actual reviews for the game yet?
No.
Or watched videos?
Yeah, I've seen some here and there and heard some discussions about it.
I mean, the reviews are kind of getting hammered, not just for the microtransactions, which people mention in all of them. They're like, yeah, it's now been removed, but just on the progression system as well. And kind of on that same topic, IGN, they spent $100 in real money in the game and then showed a ton of stats on what they got. I sent you both an image right here on what it gives you, but Again, they spent 100 real dollars on it before the microtransactions were removed. 72.7% of all their star cards were common, the whites. 16.7% were greens, uncommons. 9.1% were yellows, cosmetics, and only 1.4% were rare. And that's not even the purples. There were no purples, which are the ultimate ones or whatever's.
Well, see, and this, like, it kind of makes me think how, like, I'll use Mario Party as an example. You guys have played Mario Party, right?
Yes.
Like, any of them. It doesn't matter. Did you ever feel like in that game when you're rolling the dice that the game is almost picking your number for you? Like, it doesn't matter, like, what you actually roll?
Yeah.
Because, like, sometimes you could be way ahead, way in the lead, and then you start rolling really poorly. And, like, yeah, I guess, theoretically it could happen, but in real life, but, the game starts working against you because ultimately you don't really have control over that die. I always said I would love to be able to play a game of Mario Party where you had the option to roll a real die and then just say what number you rolled. Like, if you're playing multiplayer and everyone's on the same page agreeing with that, I would just love to see how differently the game would play out. And that's what I think about with this card system. You're opening digital packs where the game, the developers want you to think that, yeah, you have a shot of getting anything. Like, we're not controlling this. But it still makes me question it compared to, like, if you were buying a real pack of cards. Like, if you go to the store and buy Pokemon cards, there's a whole box. I mean, yeah, there might be one really rare card in that whole box, but you at least still have some control over which pack you want to pick. Whereas in this, like, this example you showed us, Ryan, 209 cards, only 3 of them were rare. It really makes you wonder, like, did I have any control over this? Did I just get unlucky, or did the game give me my luck?
Yeah. So I hope it happens in the United States. I know some countries, the publisher has to publish on the screen when you open the box the chances for each thing. I think that's a law in Korea or maybe just China. I don't remember, but I think something like that would go a long way to begin with. But
see, even that though, like, let's say EA tells you 50% chance you have a 50% chance of getting a rare card in this box that you open. If you don't get it, you still don't know what the real percentages were. You just assume, oh, I got the other 50%. Like, that's the thing. They could tell you there's a 99% chance that you'll get a rare card, and you could still hit that 1% and not get it. But how would you really know?
That's why I don't play XCOM games.
It's actually kind of funny. I was thinking back to, like, one of my first loot box experience, which was the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer. And the thing I liked about that is they had different prices on their crates. And so if you wanted to save a little bit longer, you could get, like, the Spectra pack, which guaranteed you a legendary or something like that. And I think that's the way they should go.
Yeah.
Is, like, they should make it a little bit less random if you're willing. Like, if you wanted to spend, like, 2,000 credits on a total rando, like, roll the dice box, awesome, that's fine, you can do that. But if you want to wait and spend more credits on something that guarantees you something that you're looking for, I think you should have that option.
Yeah, there's quite a few games that do that. Like South Park, I keep bringing up South Park because it's the closest thing that I'm playing that, I can compare to this. But yeah, they have the different packs and they're like, okay, well, you can spend, your 200 coins that you earned and get this, kind of crappy pack of like 4 cards, not guaranteed to get anything great, or you can save up and then get one, and we guarantee you there's at least 2 rare cards in here.
Right.
And so Star Wars doesn't have that at all. You're just picking like the different crates, but they don't guarantee anything.
Correct.
Yeah, as far as I know right now.
Huh.
So that's why the backlash has been so strong, TJ.
Yeah.
The only bright side to this whole thing that I've found so far is that every day you log in, you do get a crate for free.
Those
that's cool.
tend to be just small amounts of credits and small amounts of crafting parts.
They are very small, and your chances of getting anything good are low. But I mean, it is at least something for free.
For me, the most positive that's come about this is, I don't want to say the backlash, but the change that EA has made, regardless or in accordance to the backlash. I just hope that it sends a message to other developers, because EA, in my opinion, they crossed a line, and I think the community kind of made the point where the line was. Obviously Overwatch didn't cross the line, but this did, and so we're kind of, as a gaming society, showing developers where the line is, and so hopefully more developers aim towards that and not try to use, in my opinion, with this game, as it was before, insidious tactics in order to try to milk more money out of the consumer.
Yeah, well, there's been a lot of good discussions going around about what the difference is between, stuff like Overwatch versus this game.
Yeah.
I think part of it is that Overwatch only, like, there's no guns or special powers. Like, literally all you unlock are skins, sprays, like poses, things that are entirely just silly and cosmetic. So
yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's great that EA is listening, and they are adjusting. I mean, they took the loot boxes. Are they still offline? Like, can you not buy them?
You can't purchase the in-game currency.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I mean,
gotcha.
You still spend the in-game currency on loot boxes.
Yeah. So I think it's great that they're listening. The only thing I just question is, did EA say, you know what, let's put something out there that everyone's going to hate? Like, most people are just going to hate this, and then we'll listen to their feedback, but we'll keep toning it down until we get to the point where it's still what we want, but we'll just make them feel like, okay, well, at least it's not as bad as it originally was. And then people just settle. Because I can't see them creating this game and thinking, that whole company thinking before they released it, oh, people are going to be fine with this. There's not going to be any problems. Like, if it's really this bad, how could they not have known that ahead of time?
Well, and I think, I mean, not to be expose my super liberal anti-corporatism side too much, but I think that's what a lot of business is what can we get away with?
Yeah.
How far can we push this until people are just so fed up that they push back? Because, I mean, it's profitable for them, and if they can do it and make money, then according to the capitalistic system, that's what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
It's my opinion that they didn't try to push it as far as they could with the intent of rolling it back to try to get to where they wanted to. Activision, I think, reported for the last fiscal year that almost half of their entire revenue was through microtransactions.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, it's my thinking that EA, put this in with the mindset yep, some people are going to be mad. Some people are going to buy this game because of it. However, we will make considerably more money through the microtransactions than we would have ever have lost from people being mad or not purchasing the game outright. Yeah. That being said, I think the backlash on this was obviously bigger than any backlash that I don't think EA has ever had, and definitely the biggest backlash against microtransactions and loot boxes in gaming history, the short history that's been.
Yeah.
But I also think it was starting to negatively affect the Star Wars brand, and where I legitimately think Disney had to step in some way or fashion.
Yeah.
And so I think that's, they need to keep up the good Star Wars image that they've carefully built over the past few years, and they have a brand new Star Wars movie to market next month. So I think it was a combination of both of those things that caused EA to step back begrudgingly, not to a point where they want to be, so to speak. Yeah.
Well, I mean, all in all, I guess it's good to at least hear that the game is still fun. So maybe it'll only get better from here. Maybe they will have more events and stuff where you can earn that stuff, just for playing on specific days and all that. That's always nice when they do that. So yeah, I guess we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. And I do want to have a little asterisk next to my fun in the multiplayer. Even though I did, pretty enjoy the matches I had, I feel that as the progression system currently is, I don't have a strong urge to play it because of the progression system. So it's more of I want to kind of look around, see what the maps look like, and go, ooh, that's cool. I'm on a Camino. And then be like, okay, I'm kind of done until until they fix the progression system to be a bit more rewarding. But who knows if I'm even interested at that point. So we'll see.
Yes, we will.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for your good discussion on that. Let's go ahead and hop into our next topic, Cuphead, and just difficulty in games in general. Trent and I played a lot yesterday. We got to the final boss. We tried him a few dozen times, but couldn't quite get past him. He's not even like the hardest boss we've come to. I just think we were both kind of getting a little tired and hungry by the end. So we just kind of put off finishing the final boss until today. We'll probably finish it today. But something that, Trent and I kind of mentioned is that, at some levels we were like in the deepest of despair. Like, man, how are we going to beat this? The dragon, I think, has been the hardest fight so far. We didn't find the robot nearly as hard as you made him seem to be, TJ.
Huh. Well, I did play it by myself.
I think it's harder with two people. I'm going to say that.
Huh.
Because someone was talking about it online. They double the enemy's health for one, and then they have more projectiles for you to dodge.
But when one person's dead, the enemy's health goes back to normal.
Yeah. Wait, what?
Yeah, so so they double the enemy's health, or they half your damage. When one person is left and the other person is a ghost, your damage goes back to normal, like the same level as if you were playing by yourself.
Oh, really?
And then if you revive the second player, the damage goes back to half.
Ah, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So do you still think it's harder?
I don't know.
Now, projectiles, I don't know. I don't know if maybe when one person's dead, if you're still getting double or however many more projectiles. But yeah, that is one of the things that they said how the game works.
Yeah. Well, maybe I would contend that maybe it's equal. I wouldn't say it's easier or harder then, if that's the case. I don't know. Maybe you should play co-op with someone and see what you think, TJ.
Well, maybe I
haven't played it single player. But have you played it co-op?
No, I have not played a co-op.
So maybe you're right, but I don't know.
However, though,
one thing that Trent and I, discussed in our deepest despair, and then after a happy victory, that pretty much almost every time the words "knockout" appear on the screen, both Trent and I audibly usually like, "Yes!"
Oh, it's awesome!
Yeah, like loud cheering.
Loud cheerings and high fives and much rejoicing ensues. And so kind of wanted to just bring that into an open discussion between the three of us. How do developers utilize that difficulty to get to a point where it's not too frustrating and yet give you that, superb amount of endorphins you get when you beat a boss? I think that's something that the Dark Souls trilogy, well, I guess it is trilogy, but the Dark Souls genre has been known for the past handful of years, and something that Trent and I are experiencing with Cuphead right now, so to speak. But what are you guys' thoughts on the matter?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a huge sense of accomplishment, especially when it's a game that you're enjoying. Like, I enjoyed every single minute of Cuphead. That doesn't mean I never got frustrated, but it never felt impossible. That's why I feel like they just did such a good job with the difficulty, because it's not really easy for people who are even good at that genre, but it's not too difficult for people that may not have that much experience in that genre. It's like just the right amount of difficulty to challenge you, but still get you to keep going and keep trying. Yeah, I mean, I guess there were some of the moons, the power moons in Mario Odyssey, some were really difficult. Like there were some that had me screaming, like, oh my gosh, this is so frustrating. And I remember feeling that way in Cuphead, but not exactly the same way. Like Mario, I think it kind of throws you off because there is a lot of the game that is easy. So when you come across one of those, you appreciate the challenge, but then if it is really tough, you're like, okay, well, like how do they expect someone, like a casual player, to beat this? Like I don't think most casual people would ever be able to beat this. Whereas Cuphead is like, we're going to challenge you the whole game. It's going to get a little harder here, a little harder there, but you basically know what to expect the whole game. And I was going to say, too, not to ramble, but like you guys said, with the dragon boss, you guys really struggled with that. And then the robot boss, you didn't, like I did. that's another thing I noticed too with Cuphead. There were some bosses where I beat them like the first or second try, and I'm like, okay, well, that was weird. But then I talked to other people that played, and they're like, man, like that Bumblebee boss was really tough. Like I really struggled with that. So that's weird too, like how they even pulled that off, where some bosses can challenge other people where, some players might not have had any difficulty with them at all. Like I think that's a big accomplishment.
I think the core of that comes in the tactics. I think, all of us have a tactic that we like to use, in Cuphead or just in games in general, and Trent and I would run. It happened to us a few times where we were just running into a brick wall when it comes to a certain boss. And then I know yesterday, Trent just went and switched his weapon, and then we destroyed the boss. Like all it took was Trent changing his weapon, and we just demolished it. So it was just, a certain weapon at a certain time with a certain person was all it took. And so, if TJ, your specific tactic, your go-to tactic in Cuphead, just made it so you could destroy the Bumblebee boss, but then someone else's tactic, they ran into a brick wall at that and had to adapt their tactic into something different.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And even that, I love that, how it's not like every boss had one weapon. If you equipped it, it made it really easy. Or like you didn't really have to work as hard. Like you still had to put in the work and you still had to be skilled. But yeah, it might have made it, a bit easier than it would have been with a different weapon. So I just feel like there's a lot more to Cuphead. I mean, Cuphead seems so simple, but I feel like there's way more to it. Like it does have a lot of levels to it. That I think a lot of people don't really realize.
Yeah, ditto. And again, I think it's one thing that made the Souls series so popular. I mean, I've only played 2 of them so far, but I've enjoyed them immensely. I look forward to playing more of them. Bloodborne being the first of the Souls series I ever played, it was just, again, one of those games where I just couldn't put it down because I wanted that rush you get when it said, enemy slain or defeated or whatever, because it wasn't just, yeah, I beat a boss. It was like, yes! F you, you're dead. Kind of. It just felt so good, and the gameplay in both, that I think that Cuphead and Dark Souls have similar is that, anytime, not every time, but most of the time, like when you get hit or you get killed, you're like, yep, that was my fault.
Yeah, so
to speak. And so, it's a good difficulty to where it's punishing but not cheating. I guess I would say.
Well, yeah, that's the thing I wanted to point out is that it never at any point. Well, I'm not going to say never, because there was a few times I just didn't understand what was going on, but very, very rarely in Cuphead did I feel like the game was just being mean, for lack of a better term. There are some really hard games where it's just hard because they programmed it to be unpredictable and ridiculous.
Like a lot of old NES games were like that.
Yeah. Exactly.
They're like, hey, we need to make this game almost impossibly difficult because if we don't, people are going to realize it only takes 15 minutes to beat.
Right. But yeah, everything in Cuphead felt like, okay, no, if I can perfect this combination of moves and go to the right place and learn the patterns, then I can win.
Yeah. Yep.
What do you guys think of the modern get good culture?
I think it's a little toxic.
Yeah.
But at the same,
yeah.
I bring it up because this week Trent was there. I went and spoke to someone, and just kind of someone who is a very, very Destiny veteran and played a lot of Destiny 1, Destiny 2, and is kind of excited to see Trent and I's progress on Destiny 2 now that we're kind of getting into it. I went, and Trent was there. I went and spoke to him and said, yeah, we tried our first Nightfall. We had no idea what we were expecting, and we got smashed. And then just another person kind of just off to the side was like, get good, scrub. It's okay, we were under-leveled, under-geared, and we had no idea what we were going into and what to expect, what a Nightfall was. And
right.
So I was like, oh, okay, thanks for that. So, but...
Yeah, I mean... Obviously, skill has to matter in games because, someone that invests, 100 hours into a game should, for the most part, be better than the person who put 5 hours into it. So something like that. I mean, players that invest the time need to be rewarded, and their skills need to be able to progress. But I never really understood why people like to rub that in other people's faces. Like, if you are really good at a game, like, why would you tell people that aren't as good, like, oh, you got to get good, get good?
Yeah.
It's like, well,
So there's two sides of it that I see. There's the side of people who complain about games like Dark Souls because they're too hard. So they go on forums and be like, "Oh, this game is stupid. Like, why would you want it? Like, how is this fun? Blah blah blah." And then like the reaction to that was, "Well, get good. Like, like this game is hard. You need to either get better or go play something else." And I think that is a fine response.
yeah,
Like if you're not being mean about it. And but on the other side, like what we're saying, like it's become kind of a better than thou type toxicity. Like, oh, I mean, I've beaten Dark Souls. Like, you must suck at video games. Like, if you haven't. And to me, it just comes down to like it's almost like a genre choice. Like, if you like that kind of thing and that you enjoy the rush of the challenge and can deal with the frustration, then awesome. Like, go enjoy your game. But there's some people who are gonna love like Candy Crush, and that's the kind of gaming they like, and that's what they should have fun playing and not feel bad about it.
yeah. I think gamer culture as a whole is just a lot different nowadays than it used to be. But
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of different cultures as a whole are a lot different than they used to be, and I think it all boils down to social media.
Yep.
Man, remember playing Halo 2 online and just like making random friends with random people?
Yep.
I remember.
But yeah,
good times.
so yeah, I don't know if that was necessarily the exact discussion you were looking for,
No,
Ryan,
I think
but
it's perfect.
It was good.
Get good.
Get good.
All right, well, let's go ahead and transition into our final topic for the week. We are going to be discussing Justice League spoilers. Everything Justice League shown in the movie, including before credits and after credits. So if you haven't seen Justice League, go out and see it. I think we all can agree that it's enjoyable. Not the best movie of the year by any means, but I walked out saying, like, I enjoyed that. That was better than I thought it was going to be. So
yeah, I really liked it a lot.
we all agree on that. So if not, we'll see you next week. But if you're sticking with us, here we go. Justice League spoilers all ahead. So I think we could all agree that the best moment in the movie was when they were all taking on Superman, and the Flash was running behind him, and then his eye moves, and he starts following Flash, and Flash just had the biggest, like, what the look on his face.
Because you have to
good.
You have to put yourself in those shoes and just think how absolutely terrifying that would be.
Right?
Like, you always think, like, hey, I've lived this life where I'm the fastest person in the world. I can get away from anything. Why should I worry? To, oh my gosh, this is Superman, the strongest person on the planet. I didn't realize he was this fast too.
Yep.
And he wants to hurt me.
Like, it's such a great callback to just like the common theme in like the cartoons and in the comics about like them racing, like and like that was a wonderful post-credit scene too. It was like that whole thing about like who's faster has always been kind of a thing that they talk about. So I thought that was brilliant.
Which, do you guys know, like, in the comics when they had that, who won?
Did
never
they ever
show
say the ending? But it's been made clear just throughout the DC universe as a whole that the Flash is faster.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Eventually.
Yeah, definitely not. I would say probably not right now, since Superman is more veteran at this point, whereas Flash is seemingly pretty new. So
I guess I should start off by asking, like, what did you guys like about it? Like, are you surprised that you came out of it going like, oh man, I enjoyed that?
Yes.
I mean, I liked how they did all the characters. I mean, like, I've always been a more DC fan when it comes just to comics. I mean, obviously Marvel's just stomping them into dust as far as the movies go, but as far as the comics and the stories have gone, I've always been a DC person. And of that, like, the Justice League has been like my favorite DC comic to read or story to follow, with Batman being a close second. But I love the dynamic of the members of the Justice League and how they work together and the threats they take on and everything like that. And so, I don't want to in any way compare this to, the many, many women who are looking for their first, superhero icon woman superhero icon to be on screen before Wonder Woman, because it's not even close to that, but I would say it's akin to that, being like, it's something that I've wanted to see for my entire life. My favorite comic book story come to life on the big screen. Maybe not story in particular, but, my favorite comic book thing, besides Invincible, just coming up on the screen. So I was happy to finally see that happen.
Yeah.
So.
Well, going into it, I was so nervous that Superman would barely be in it.
Yeah.
He was in like zero of the marketing. Well, not zero. I think the last trailer they released showed like Clark and Lois talking, and even that they changed it up for the movie. In the trailer, it makes it seem like a dream sequence, and then in the movie, like that's actually happening because he does come back.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I was like, oh wait, this is not a dream.
Yeah, and I feel like just the way they handled Superman, like he was in it like just the right amount. I seriously thought he was going to show up with like 5 minutes left and then save them, because there's in one of the trailers there's that scene where Alfred is in the Batcave, someone comes in and he looks at them and he says something like, oh, like we've been expecting you, and you just assume that it's Superman, but then you find out in this movie they brought Superman back, like that was part of their plan and they took that risk. He didn't just kind of come back to life on his own. And
I actually really liked, like, I was surprised by that storyline and surprised that I didn't hate it.
Yeah. No, me too. I get it. Because it's so funny. The fight between all of them and Superman made sense. Like, you just got it. And then you look back at Batman v Superman and you still don't understand why they're fighting.
Yep.
Like, why do they hate each other so much? But then in this, it's like they did it right.
The only thing I like about it with Cyborg's like rogue arm. Like, oh guys, I can't control it. Oh no, sorry, Superman.
I thought that was funny.
I don't know. I thought that was like, okay, that's a very contrived way to like get Superman mad at them.
It was, but I mean, they did show that, like, he's looking at them with X-ray vision, and he even sees Aquaman getting really nervous and scared. I think he mentions that, doesn't he? Doesn't he say like you're really afraid or something?
Yeah, so Cyborg tells him to calm down, because his like blood pressure or heart rate is like off the chart or something, and he's like, "Well, of course it is." Like,
yeah. But yeah, I mean, and the Flash, like, well, just all in all, I didn't feel like a lot of the comedy was forced. And from a lot of the reviews I saw, like the negative reviews, a lot of people said that they're like, "Oh, they just tried to make it funny now instead of being serious." And I was afraid that the tone was going to feel off, but it worked for me. Like, I feel like most of the jokes really hit, and it didn't take anything away from the serious side of the plot. Whereas Thor Ragnarok, like, that was one of the problems I had, where I'm like, man, this really doesn't feel as balanced as it should.
Yeah.
When it comes to like the serious threat versus the humor, it seemed like humor really took the main stage with Thor.
Yeah, I would agree. I felt the humor worked well.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about Ezra Miller as Flash, but like now you see, like now that you see him in the movie, like with all his parts, like you completely understand why they cast him as Flash.
Yeah, totally.
So funny.
Like even his facial expressions were priceless.
Yeah, fantastic.
Wasn't a fan of the suit, but he was fine. I mean, he was great. I mean,
yeah.
The suit felt too like metallic. Reminded me of like the Power Rangers movie from the 90s.
It reminded me of the Power Ranger movie of this year, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I feel like one character that was a little underutilized was Commissioner Gordon. I mean, I wasn't expecting him to play like a major role, but I remember seeing those pictures. Like after he got cast, he was working out, like he got totally jacked, and I'm like, oh man, what's he gonna do in this movie? So I don't know if some of his stuff got cut out, but I was like, oh, I just want a little more Commissioner Gordon.
He just came out and I immediately whispered to Maggie, "I want pictures of Spider-Man."
Yeah, I could not see Jonah Jameson on the screen there, I'll be honest.
One change that I would have made, and I don't know if you guys like thought this way or felt this way, but the opening scene with Batman where he's going after that criminal, I don't know if that's supposed to be one of like the Batman rogues, maybe like one of the lower level ones, or if it was just some random thug. But I'm like, I really wish this was a recognizable Batman villain.
Yeah.
Same.
I think that really would have made it, a little more special, especially considering like this is only the second movie that we've got to see Ben Affleck as Batman, and then in Batman v Superman there were no Batman villains.
Yep.
So like I think it doesn't. the way they have it now doesn't break the movie. It doesn't ruin it, but I feel like that could have made that scene a little more special if it was like, oh man, it's so and so.
I agree. Also, I know why he just like started straight up talking to Alfred and be like Alfred, like with that guy right next to him.
Yeah, I turned my brother-in-law and I was like, I was expecting him to say, "Who's Alfred?"
Yeah.
But
I feel the beginning of the movie had a really rough start. Like I was
Yeah.
really like, oh boy, probably up until the Wonder Woman scene.
yeah,
Yeah.
I could see that. Well, Wonder Woman was just, oh god, so good.
Yeah.
I just love her more and more as Wonder
Yes.
Woman, and even all the Amazonians. That scene where they're carrying the box away, that whole chase scene, I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, it was super well done.
Yeah, I agree. That was phenomenal.
And Trent, one thing you brought up, it wasn't on the show. You brought it up to us though. There was that article about like that picture of the Amazonians in this movie before the movie came out, and they're saying like how they were dressed a lot more sexual in this one, like way less clothing.
Uh-huh.
So I was expecting that, but then if you see the movie, most of them are wearing the same stuff as they were in Wonder Woman, and the only Amazonians wearing that stuff were the ones that had to like shut those doors or keep those doors open. So, and I feel like they did that because when those girls were holding those doors, you could see like their six packs and stuff. Like it was, I really think it was just to show that off, like just how strong they were.
I could see that, and I was happy to see that a lot of the main army that came riding in were in full armor.
Yeah,
So like the rest of them weren't expecting a fight, I don't think.
yeah,
So I was, I mean, I still get the complaint and the optics of it, but I think that's a really hard thing to navigate
yeah.
right now, especially. But yeah, it ended up being better than I expected. So
Yeah.
I was happy about that. And like
Yeah,
you said,
so
that scene in general was just so awesome. And like none of these women have the kind of strength that Wonder Woman does, and yet just how like amazing they were in fighting like this super being. Like, oh, it was so cool.
yeah. Were either of you expecting to see a Green Lantern at all in this?
No,
that was a nice
that
treat.
was awesome.
Yeah.
And like the Greek gods and like how they were towering over the other people, and I want to know
Yeah.
more about the Atlanteans. Like that whole thing made me wonder like about like Atlantis and like how they went underwater, like who
Well,
are they?
I think the Aquaman movie is in post-production now.
Yeah, I just don't know if they're gonna do enough to just to tell me that story
Yeah.
that I want it to be. But
Well, because the way when he meets what's her name? Mira?
see, I didn't catch her. Like, is this the water sorceress or whatever? Under
Yeah,
the,
Amber Heard plays
yeah.
her. Do you know, Ryan?
I'm not sure. No.
Well, I think that's ultimately Aquaman's wife. I think they get married eventually, but in this, like, they didn't really know each other. So I'm wondering if Aquaman's going to take place after this movie.
I imagine it probably will.
That'd be weird if it didn't.
Yeah.
Considering it's kind of his own like loner sort of thing.
Well, see, but with all those rumors floating around that Wonder Woman 2 is going to take place in the 80s, I feel like that is going to be a step backwards because one of the big themes in this movie was Bruce basically telling her, like, why have you been hiding? Like, you've been around this whole time and no one knows who you are. And then at the end, she's like talking to those little girls and stuff, and taking pictures and all that. So they're going to have to go backwards if they set it in the 80s.
Yeah, that's true. Good point.
And I'll be honest, one of my favorite interactions in the movie was that argument between her and Bruce about like you need to like let it go or whatever, and he's like, "Oh yeah, well, tell me about letting go of Steve Trevor," and like she shoves him, like,
Yeah.
oh, that was.
And he's like really hurt from it too.
He's like, oh, something's bleeding, like that line from the Superman fight. I was pleasantly surprised by his performance too. Like I still think he makes a much better Bruce Wayne than he does a Batman.
Yeah.
Weird. And like there were some Batman scenes that were like, oh, okay, that's Batman being Batman finally.
Yeah.
Like during the fight, because I felt kind of bad. That's one of the interesting like dynamics of the Justice League is that their power levels are very different.
Very different.
And like I kept picturing in my head like okay, this is like a D&D party or like an MMO group. Like Wonder Woman's the tank, and like Aquaman is like the melee like DPS guy. Flash is, I don't know what Flash is, like the support or something.
Support, yeah, I would say.
And so it's just really fun, like watching, like, okay, like everyone else has to deal with all these other threats, while Wonder Woman, like usually by herself, was keeping Steppenwolf occupied.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is so awesome.
Well, like especially in the comics, but even in like the animated movies, it's so much easier to like kind of make them all seem equal. Like Batman especially. I mean, all his gadgets and stuff like that. Like it's really easy to make him seem like more than a man
Yeah.
in that. But then when you have like for lack of a better term, realistic take on it, you know, it's very hard to pull that off. And yeah, Batman definitely seems underpowered.
What do you guys think of
So-
Steppenwolf in general?
I was very happy to see Vigo from Ghostbusters 2 getting more work. I
It
feel
was
like
him? I totally didn't realize that.
it wasn't. He
Okay.
just sounded a lot like.
I was like, what?
I was like, wow. Blew my
There were
mind
some
there for a
lines he
second.
had. I'm like, yeah, he sounds just like Vigo. I was waiting for Janish to come in and kneel to him.
This is
But yeah, I
Steppenwolf.
feel like he got the job done. I feel like the fight scenes with him, you know, were entertaining and stuff. But just like most superhero movies, it's so hard to just get a good villain.
Like, I know this probably is an extremely low bar, but I think he's the best DCEU villain we've had so far.
I don't know. Jared Leto was a good
Oh,
Joker. No,
now I'm sad.
I mean, maybe Man of Steel, Zod was
Yeah.
probably the better.
yeah, I like Zod because at least Zod, you really understand where he's coming from. He may not
Yes,
agree with it, but at least he
Yeah,
like
his-
states his case.
His motivations were very clear and understandable.
Yeah.
I was worried that he was gonna, like, that Steppenwolf was gonna be too, like, whoever with Batman, and just be kind of like an unknowable, unrelatable threat.
hmm
But I think overall, I was pleasantly surprised by him. Like, he was threatening, he was powerful. I kind of got an idea of what he was trying to do, even though, like,
Yeah.
the weird references to the boxes and what they were, and how all that stuff was a bit much for me. But it was cool.
Yeah, I ended up liking the stuff with Cyborg too, like how he knew, like, oh, the mother box made you,
Yeah,
like the mother box lives in you, like he could immediately point that out and stuff. I thought that was really cool.
agreed.
So we could talk about parts that we liked, you know, for a long time, I'm sure. But I was going to ask you guys, when it comes down to it, why do you think there's so many negative reviews? Like, because, you know, all three of us enjoyed it. Everyone I know that's seen it has enjoyed it. So I don't get where a lot of the negativity is coming from. What do you guys think it is?
I don't want to use an excuse, and I think this is a very small part of it, but I think it's the Marvel versus DC mindset with a lot of people.
Yeah.
I think is one thing. I thought Steppenwolf was a bit weak, personally, and so I think that could be more into it. But no, I don't quite know. I mean, I enjoyed a lot of it.
Yeah, this one's really kind of baffling me. Like, because, you know, I've defended Batman v Superman, you know, I've defended some of the other DC movies, but I could at least understand where people are coming from. Like, I could understand why they didn't like it. But for the negative reviews that this is getting, I mean, some people are saying the movie's just, like, unwatchable.
What?
Like, reputable critics, yeah. Like, I've seen, I mean, the fact that it has, like, I think it's like a 30 or 40% on Rotten Tomatoes, like, that alone says that a lot of people really aren't digging it. But there's so many people I see like tweeting out from various websites and stuff saying like it's not a good movie. Like it's just not. At the end of the day, it's not. And I don't understand that. I really don't.
See, I don't know. There were definitely some missteps. I feel like there were things that I would change, and some of the humor fell flat here and there.
Mhm.
But yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know what. Like, if it's just kind of like that bandwagoning effect, like, oh, it's still funny and it's still cool, and like it'll still drive clicks to hate on DCEU.
Well, I'm glad you bring that up because I was going to ask you guys. You guys saw it together, right?
Yeah.
Did you see it with anyone else?
Maggie.
Did she like it?
She did, yeah.
Because I wonder that too. Like a lot of these people, like critics and stuff, if they're seeing the movie by themselves, I wonder if that affects their judgment. Because like I saw it with my wife and my brother-in-law. My wife loves Superman. loves Superman. She loves Henry Cavill as Superman. So yeah, obviously she had those reasons for seeing the movie, but
So she
she
really
would.
liked the fight scene then.
She really liked the fight scene because
kind
he's not
of
wearing a shirt.
kind of a side note, just while we're on the topic, if you don't mind me interrupting. Just,
No.
Maggie told me as we were driving home, she was like, a lot of people were like, "Oh, Henry Cavill is so hot," and I never really understood until that fight. Like, he took his shirt off. He's like, now I understand.
Yeah, but but the whole point I was going to make was like she was really happy with it, and that made me happy with the movie. Like I wasn't saying like, oh, I thought it was okay, but then when she liked it, I liked it. But I just wonder if the people you're with, if there's a general like agreement on the movie, I wonder if that makes you like it even more.
I'm sure there's a case for that.
Because like if critics are seeing it by themselves and just like hearing what people are saying, or if they're just like kind of forming their own opinion without talking to anyone else about it, like I wonder if that does affect it.
Yeah,
because we walked out of the theater, the three of us, like saying, "Wow, we're really surprised. That was great. Like we really loved it, and we were just in a good mood after it because we were all on the same page."
Yeah, the biggest indicator for me is of how much I end up enjoying a movie is if, like, during the climax, I'm like, I don't want it to end. I don't want it to end. I don't want it to end. And that's what I felt in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't want it to end when the fight was over and it was kind of calming down and they were just, I was like, oh, it's over. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's unfortunate because, I mean, if we look at the box office, it's not a bomb, but it definitely performed way, way under expectations.
Yeah. That just frustrates me so much because I just like want to scream at people and be like, why? Like, why aren't you seeing this? Like, why do you not want to see this? I know that DC movies have steered you wrong in the past, but like, just see this one, please.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it kind of goes back to a discussion we've had before about just kind of the weaknesses and the faults of ratings in general.
Yeah.
Like, can you really compare all movies on the same scale?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
And it's like, because people were comparing this obviously to the Avengers, when this doesn't have the same setup as the Avengers, it doesn't have the same tone.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, this was a bad version of Ultron. I'm like, no, I think this was better than Ultron, in my opinion.
Oh, I think so too.
Yeah.
And at the same time, like, they had a lot of like groundwork to like, we had a lot of personal like side story to set in this movie because they didn't all have their own movies.
Yeah.
And I thought they did a pretty decent job with that.
Yeah, I thought so too, and I really did not think they were going to.
No.
I mean, look at that. They introduced Flash, Cyborg, and Aquaman all in one movie. And none of them and I felt like all of them got equal screen time.
And each one like had a scene where we learned a good deal about their backstory without it being like heavy exposition.
Yeah.
Which I thought was impressive. Like, I don't know. I mean, people are gonna think what they want to think about it. I thought it was fun. I didn't regret my purchase of it.
Do you guys wonder how different it would have been if Zack Snyder was able to finish it and Joss Whedon didn't step in? Like, would you love to see Zack Snyder's version of the movie? It's never going to happen, but
I think this version is better.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I'm sure. I'm not doubting that, but I just wonder how different. Like, I wonder how much Joss Whedon actually, like, how much input he actually gave and how many changes he made.
Well, and it goes back to that original question, like, were you surprised to like it? And I think one of the reasons that I was, and maybe one of the reasons other people aren't going to see it, is that the trailers really didn't do anything for me, and I didn't like spend the weeks leading up to it like really excited for it. Like, I've been actively excited for The Last Jedi for like a year now.
Yeah.
And I remember like Ryan like last week being like, "Oh, hey, are we going to see Justice League next week?" I was like, "Wait, it comes out next week?"
I think you said that on the podcast. You're like, "Wait, that's this week. It's out now." So
yeah, like I feel like the trailers were a bit underwhelming, and like it looked very dark tonally, like it was going to be another Batman v Superman, and the whole movie looked like it took place in the dream hell the Batman v Superman Batman dreams.
Yeah.
And so I didn't understand what, like, the whole time I saw the preview, I was like, why is the sky red? Like, what's going on? Like, are they on a different planet? It looks like Earth, but I don't know. Like, once you see it, it makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's so much easier to understand.
Well, that we know that is one big change that they made. If you look at the first trailer versus the later ones, they changed that whole like a lot of those open like area fight scenes.
Oh yeah.
I think the new movie looks completely different, or the way the movie is now looks completely different than those first trailers. Like it's, I think it's way less dark and everything. Like I don't know, there's side by side like shots and everything online, but look it up. I mean, they completely changed the look of that. So
nice.
well, I guess
So,
one last question for you guys, unless you guys had anything else you wanted to say about the movie.
I had one last question. It was what we thought of the post-credit scene, but
Oh yeah, no, go ahead and talk about that.
I finally started to believe Jesse Eisenberg is Lex Luthor in that scene.
that's what I said too.
And I think that just shows the Joss Whedon versus Zack Snyder portion of it, because I'm pretty sure that was Joss Whedon doing that there. I didn't like the line he delivered at the end, like, "Oh, we should start a league of our own." I was like, okay, that's a bit on the nose, but I still enjoyed that scene overall, and enjoyed finally seeing Lex Luthor in a movie versus what we got in Batman v Superman, whatever that was.
Yeah. Oh god. Yeah. No. And then even the race. I know we mentioned it a little bit between Flash and Superman. It was just fun. Like it still fit with the rest of the movie. It was good to see Superman smiling in a DC movie.
I mean, he was in it the least, but this is definitely Henry Cavill's best Superman.
Yeah.
Like I finally felt he was Superman in this movie versus Batman Superman in the previous two.
Yeah. And I still feel like Superman needed one more solo movie before Batman v Superman to really like make his death impactful, because it's very weird to introduce a character, have their origin story, and then have them die in the second movie, and then have them come back in the third movie. Like that does seem a bit rushed.
Yeah.
But no, you're right. This was definitely his best Superman yet.
So what did you have to say?
Yeah, I was going to ask, so my buddy John, he asked me this, and I didn't really think about this, so I don't know if you guys saw it this way or not, but obviously when Bruce and Alfred were talking about they might have to bring out the big guns, they were referring to Lois Lane.
Yeah.
So, that was really cool. I didn't see that coming for some reason.
I didn't either.
But as soon as she came out, my wife's like, I knew it. I knew they were bringing in Lois. So, I don't know, but my buddy John, he was asking, in Batman v Superman, when the Flash comes through that portal and says Lois is the key, do you think he's referring to, like, he's coming back to give Bruce that idea? Because otherwise Bruce wouldn't have used Lois and Superman would have went crazy and then been the Superman that he sees in that dream sequence?
I'm going to do a hard no on that one, in my opinion. I think that we're never going to get to that, so to speak, with the current EU. But, Flash definitely doesn't have the power to do his time travel stuff currently. And so I think whatever he's trying to warn Bruce about is whatever big event is happening at the time that he has that ability.
Well, no, but he doesn't have it in this movie, but in Batman v Superman, that could be him coming from the future when he does have the ability and going like, okay, what brought us to this moment? I need to go back and tell Bruce, hey, Lois is the key to not making this happen.
I don't know if he'd have that foresight or be like, oh yeah, I remember that like 3 years ago. Let's go back and tell Bruce to do it. I think it's going to be more dire based on the current situation that's happening with the Flash that he needs to warn Bruce about.
Well, doesn't he say, I forget in Batman v Superman, when he comes back, did he say he went too far?
I don't remember. I could hardly understand what he was saying, and I was like, okay, this is just blatant setup for future movies, and I'll worry about it later kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
So, and again, I'm not confident we're even going to get whatever the result of that is.
Well, that's why I think like if you do think of it that way, like let's just say it kind of fit into place, and you could say that kind of saves them. It prevents them from having to set that up where Superman becomes bad. I think they are kind of like past that. I don't think that's ever going to happen.
True.
So maybe that it was their way of fixing it. So,
yeah, you're right. You may be right.
Or
there.
it could have just been like completely unintentional and just happened to work out that way. Which that's what I'm leaning towards.
Probably never know. So I guess that's the best answer until they state otherwise. So
yeah. But all right, well, I think that's all I have to say about Justice League. I really liked it.
Yeah,
really liked it a lot. Probably one of my favorite movies of the year.
Wow, that's pretty high praise, but yeah, it's definitely up there for me too. So if you haven't seen it yet and you've for some reason got to the end of our spoiler cast, go see it. All right, well, want to take us out, Trent?
Sure. Thanks everybody for joining us for another episode of the Brief Nerdity podcast. Feel free to reach out to us on our social media. Go to briefnerdity.com, briefnerdity@gmail.com, and we'd love to interact with you, take your questions, comments, etc. Thank you for joining us for this 50th episode of the Brief Nerdy podcast. I hope we have another 50 excellent episodes to come, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving.